Welcome to Parisburg First United Methodist Church. It's a great Sunday, and I hope it's a great week for you as well. This week, I'm on vacation, and I hope you've gotten to hear Reverend Dale Wyrick preach this morning. He's in our parking lot at 9 and our sanctuary at 11 o'clock. It's going to be a grand morning with him. He loves his community. He pastored here. He loves people, and he loves Israel. And he's got a great message today on John chapter 3, verses 15 through 18. It's worth hearing about that God can still do it. I realize today that some of you still want to hear me, and I also realize today that some of you are not able to make it to worship this morning for whatever reason. Because of that, I wanted to make sure you still had a service today. And so I wanted to share with you today my favorite sermon. It's one I've preached, I think now 9 times. And the more I preach it, the more I realize how true it is. It's the story of Jacob. Now, there are 25 chapters in the Bible that deal with Jacob, and we're not going to read all 25 chapters today. But what I want to do with you is read the last half of chapter 25. This is the account of Abraham's son, Isaac. Abraham became the father of Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel the Aramean from Padan, and the sister of Laban, the Aramean. Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was barren, and the Lord answered his prayer, and his wife Rebekah became pregnant. The babies jostled each other inside her, and she said, "What is this happening to me?" So she went to inquire of the Lord. The Lord said to her, "2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger." When the time came for her to give birth, there were twin boys in her womb. The first to come out was red, and his whole body was like a hairy garment. So they named him Esau. After this, his brother came out, and his hand grasping Esau's heel. So he was named Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when Rebekah gave birth to them. The boys grew up, and Esau became a skillful hunter, a man in the open country, while Jacob was a quiet man, staying among the tents. Isaac, who had a taste for wild game, loved Esau, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Once, when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau came in from the open country famished. He said to Jacob, "Quick, let me have some of that red stew. I'm famished." That is also why it's called Edom. Jacob replied, "First, sell me your birthright." "Look, I'm about to die," Esau said. "What good is the birthright to me?" But Jacob said, "Swear to me first." So Esau swore an oath to him, selling his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and some lentil stew. He ate and drank and then got up and left. And so Esau despised his birthright. Before our sermon today, I do want you to enjoy the music of W.R. and Joy Johnston. They're going to be singing a great song, a prayer, "Holy Spirit, rain down." As you listen to them, I invite you to pray that the Holy Spirit would come down upon you, upon this community, upon this nation, and allow us to be the people of God that we are called to be.
Spirit, rain down, rain down, oh comforter and friend, how we need your touch again. Holy Spirit, rain let your power fall, let your voice be and change our hearts as we stand on your word, Holy Spirit, rain down.
Holy Spirit, rain down. Rain down. Oh, Comforter and friend, how we need your touch again. Holy Spirit, rain down. Rain down. Let your power fall. Let your voice be heard. Come and change our hearts as we stand on your word. Holy Spirit, rain down. No eye has seen and no ear has heard. No mind can know what God has in store. So open up heaven, open it wide over your church and over our lives. Holy Spirit, rain down. Rain down. Oh, Comforter and friend, how we need your touch again. Holy Spirit, rain down. Rain down. Let your power fall. Let your voice be heard. Come and change our hearts as we stand on your word. Holy Spirit, rain down. Rain down. The Comforter has come. The Comforter has come. The Holy Ghost from heaven. The Father's promised gift. Oh, spread the tidings round wherever man is found. The Comforter has come. He's come. Holy Spirit, rain down. Rain down. Oh, Comforter and friend, how we need your touch again. Holy Spirit, rain down. Rain down. Let your power fall. Let your voice be heard. Come and change our hearts as we stand on your word. Holy Spirit, rain down. Rain down. Rain down. Holy Spirit, rain down. Rain down. Holy Spirit, rain down. Rain down. Rain down. Holy Spirit, 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 rain down. Rain down.
ever had one of those nights? It's 1:13 in the morning. The pillow has become a rock and it hurts to lay on. And you're not having any dreams like Jacob did of this ladder going up to heaven. In fact, you're not having dreams at all. You're just laying there realizing that time doesn't move at 1:13 in the morning. Finally, out of desperation and frustration, you crawl out of bed, even though you know it's hours until the alarm clock goes off, and you say, I can't sleep, I might as well get up. And as long as I'm up, God, you better get up too, because we need to have a chat here. There are some things wrong in my life, and I'm tired of it. Or maybe there's just this little doubt inside of you. A little nagging question inside of you that begins to ask the question, could God still use me? Could God use me? I'm not the greatest person in the world. I've made a lot of mistakes, and I'm wondering, can God still work through me and around me? Or am I just written off as somebody unusable by God? Today, I'd like you to listen to Jacob as he talks about his life. Theologians say there are 6 words that define Jacob's life. So let Jacob tell you about those 6 words and begin to envision who he is. Hi, I'm Jacob. I'm sitting down because, my hip hurts. It's one of those things about my life that happens. And I just like to sit for a while and tell you a little bit about my life today. Let's begin by the first word that people use to describe it, because it was used right there at my birth. You just read about it. Took, or grasp, or however you want to define it. I was coming out of that womb, and for whatever reason, my hand was grabbing my brother's foot. Maybe I wanted to pull him back in. Maybe I just wanted some help getting out. I don't know, but I was hanging on for all I had. I had it grasped in my hand, and I was not going to let go. You see, that's how I was defined at birth. And really, throughout my life, there's been a lot of people who've said, that's who he is. He likes to take things. He took the birthright because of a bowl of stew. Later, I took my father's blessings from my brother Esau. I faked that one too. And I'm heading off to go see my Uncle Laban. And who knows, I might take a bridle while I'm there. People define me as the one who takes things. I gotta say, they're right. There was a large part of my life, that's what I did. I took things. But there's another part of my life out there, is that I'm the one who had to run, flee, get out of there, fight or flight, and I know how to flight. My flight skills are so good, I've got pilot wings. That's me. After everything happened between Esau and me, and I took the blessing from my father, Esau declared that as soon as Dad died, he was going to get rid of me. Now, you might just think that's idle chat, but think about this for a second. I'm the guy who stayed home all the time. I'm Mama's boy. Esau, he's the guy who liked to go out there and hunt things. He was the skillful hunter. He's Dad's favorite son. And guess what? When it comes down to Mama's boys versus the skillful hunter, I think the skillful hunter's going to win. So I fled. I ran. I got out of that place. I'd run years later, too. 20 years later, I'd have enough. I'd have enough of somebody beating up on me, taking advantage of me, and everything else. And so I ran away and took everything that belonged to me. I was a runner. That's who I am. It's what defines me. Somebody who keeps on running. The other word that people use to define me is the one who served. You see, the problem was when I got to Laban's house, I thought it was going to be smooth sailing. I mean, my mom came from Laban's house. It was Laban's sister. Surely he likes his sister. And all they had to do was show up, and she got to go home with him, and life was grand. All I had to do was go and get a wife and come back. It took the other guy one day. How long would it take me? 20 years. And you know why? Because Uncle Laban outdeceived me. Uncle Laban remembered all the stuff that Abraham sent with his servant to get Rebekah. Well, guess what? Well, Abraham didn't send any stuff with me. And my father Isaac didn't send any stuff with me either. I left the house with nothing. Because remember, I fled. I didn't have a pillow. I just had a rock for a pillow. And so I show up at Laban's house with nothing. And Laban's like, no way. We got a lot of loot. When Rebecca left, I'm expecting a lot of loot off you too, dude. And so they go. For 7 years, I served to marry a girl named Rachel. Ended up getting the girl named Leah. Had to serve another 7 years to get Rachel. And then we just kept on going. And so shepherding, being a shepherd, that's the definition of my life for 20 years. There's a lot of jobs out there that you might pick up in the world. Jobs that thrill you, jobs that keep you busy, jobs that just draw a paycheck. My jobs didn't even draw a paycheck. They just drew lots of promises, and Laban kept changing the rules every time I turned around. First he said I could have one girl to be my wife. He gives me the other girl. Then he says you can have the other girl if you work a little longer. A little longer, 7 years. And then we get down to brass tacks. And he says, okay, if you'll do this, you can have all the ones that are striped. And then he says, no, you can have all the ones that are speckled. And then you can have all the ones that are solid. I don't know. He kept changing it back and forth and back. And all I know is I was a shepherd for 20 years. Dead-end job, big time like. I shepherd. And now, granted, we got a lot of stuff out of it. I left there with huge flocks. Not bad being a farmer. Not bad raising a crop, but it's not very exciting some days. The other word that describes me is a fighter. I like to fight. Yes, I like to run because I know there are times that you got to run them. You got to get out of town. But I'm not willing to give up too quickly, you see. I'm willing to fight. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And that's who I am. And probably the most glorious thing is the time I fought against God. Yep, that's the time I fought the most. And really, I've been fighting God my whole life. God appears to me 4 times in my whole lifetime. And multiple times, I didn't really want to hear him. Or I didn't want to accept the promise. Or I didn't really think it applied to me. And so I really wasn't into it. But finally, there was a night when I realized I was about to die. The next day, I was about to meet my brother Esau. And he had come with an army. And all I had was sheep, goats, wives, and kids. I didn't have an army. And that night I sent everybody ahead, and I decided it was time to talk to God. And that night, God and I, we fought. It seems awkward to say that, but I had to fight. In the end, I never let go of God, but the Lord made it clear to me He was in control. In the morning, I was given a new name called Israel. He who strives against God and he who strives with God. My hip was thrown out of joint. I've limped ever since. And likewise, I realized that day that God was very much in control and took care of me. And so I carry this limp. It's a daily reminder that God still cares. That God has not forgotten me. The one word I hope you hear most of all is throughout all this, the next day, after I met up with God, and Esau is on his way, I go from the back of the line to the front. This whole journey, I've been putting everybody else in front of me, hoping they might defend me against Esau, help them might protect me. But today, I decided to walk at the front of the line. Well, I'm limping. I'm not very fast. They could all beat me. But that day, I decided it was time to walk boldly and lead my people out. To lead the people God had given to me as a family and be with them. That's my story. And I pray that God can use it to change your story. So let's talk about your story for a few minutes. What defines you? What about your life is really going on? Are you one of these folks who's always involved in a fight? Fight over money, fight over power, fight over who's in charge, fight over who gets to be boss, who gets which closet, who gets to drive the car, who gets to do what? And God steps in and says, it's time to stop the fighting. Yes, it's good to stand up for your rights. Yes, it's good to be all those things, but I've got something better. Could you trust me today? Could you trust me? Or maybe today you're looking at your family and your situation and you are tying your running shoes right now. You're getting ready to stretch out a little bit because you can see the handwriting on the wall. It's time to go in motion. I go running with you, but limping is not good. Limpers don't make good runners. And I understand though. I've been there, and you know it's time to run. You know it's time to run. You know it's time to go as fast as you possibly can, because guess what? The danger's right behind you, and you're going to run for your life. And maybe you're trying to say, I'm still in charge. Pandemics, they don't get me down. Family, they don't get me down. Kids, jobs, dogs, cats. I'm in control of whatever happens to me. I got a plan, and nothing is going to stop me now. Are you in charge of your life? Are you really in control? Or is God in control? You see, if you're laying awake in the middle of the night, then you're probably not in control. If you're saying, God, there's nothing I can do, there's no way out of this mess, then you realize and you're trying to decide to run or fight. God says, I got a better answer. Trust me. Trust me. Because see, I want you to hear today some messages about Jacob. Let's flip over to the New Testament and look at some passages in the New Testament today that talk about Jacob. In the book of Romans, Paul writes in the 9th chapter about Jacob and reminds us that God is in control. That no matter what might happen next, God is in control. Do you grasp that today? Can you take that and hold on to it? Do you realize that the days when you serve nonstop, you begin to wonder how much longer it's going to last? Then can you grasp onto this fact that God is in control? If you do, you might discover how much God really loves you and how much God can use you. In Hebrews chapter 11, there's this tremendous series of stories about how the people of faith. It's intriguing to me, not that Jacob's included, but what he's included for. He's included for doing one small act. Near the end of his life, when it comes time to bless his grandkids, his son Joseph comes up to him with 2 kids. Jacob is supposed to bless the older one first, and then the younger one. That's the way the rules worked. But these 2 kids, Ephraim and Manasseh, show up. And Jacob takes his hands, one to bless the older kid and one to bless the younger kid, and crosses his hands. Joseph says, Dad, you've got them on the wrong head. Jacob says, no, I know what I'm doing. I'm following the command of God. At that moment, Jacob declares more than anything else that he was ready to listen to God, even when it didn't make sense, even when his own family says, I don't know about this. At that moment, because at that moment, he takes a step of faith. And I want to invite you today to take that step of faith. Most intriguingly of all, if you look at Jacob's life, there's one more time his name gets used. You recall that Jesus in Matthew 22 has got a group of Sadducees before him. They're a group there, and they've got a lot of great beliefs. But their beliefs say that after the first 5 books of the Old Testament are written, that God never spoke another word. That God's inspiration never came again. And Jesus looks at them and begins to talk about why they're wrong. And he talks about the heavens, the power of God in heaven. And when he's there, he's saying, and you know that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Notice Jacob's in there. It's present tense, like they are still alive. And that's because we believe in heaven, and the power of heaven says that these people are alive right here, right now. They have been raised from the dead. You see, if Jesus can say Jacob had a life worth living, and Jacob could be used by God to prove that the dead are alive, and there is a resurrection from the dead. If the unknown writer of Hebrews can use Jacob's story to remind us even the smallest things when our hands are crossed because God says to do it, that says that God is in control of your life and that we can trust God. What does that say about us? And if Paul, that great apostle who's writing to the Jews there in chapter 9, 10, and 11, and reminding them of all the great things that God has done, reminds them of God's tremendous faith and that God is still in control, and he goes back and uses Jacob as the illustration. Jacob says, my life's been grand. What about yours? What about your life? Do I understand that God's not done with any